Welcome to 24/7 Football for a special Lives in the Game. It's a series where we talk to various people around football, and today, a very special one during isolation. We've got non-league legend Jody Banham in our midst. Jody, thank you very much for taking time out your day for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
No problem. I wasn't doing much.
And to be fair, I don't think many of us are. So Jody was a striker. Still a striker, and he's also been a manager as well.
Not anymore. No, I was only messing. I'm retired.
So we're going to be talking through Jody's career and his time in management as well. And then later on, we'll be speaking about whether he plans on coming back in to football in some regard. So Jody, you started your career actually at Manchester United, the hallowed academy, one of the best academies in the world. And what was it like to start out your career at a club like Manchester United?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Manchester United is a massive football club, isn't it? Especially when you were a kid and you were a United fan like I was. I don't think it was the academy that it is now, and obviously with all everything that goes with it, and being an academy player and it was a centre of excellence when we was at United. We used to train on the sand base at the Cliff with Brian Kidd and Nobby Stiles. And a few others. So yeah, it was a little bit different. The coaching was a little bit different, etc. and stuff like that now as well. I think the academy kids are in 3-4 times a week, aren't they? They're on,
it's mad, isn't it?
And stuff like that. So it was a little bit different than that, but more of an old school environment than probably what you would get right now. Compared to obviously when I was a young kid going into non-league and stuff as well. It was it was certainly an eye opener.
Were there any big players at the time? Because it was sort of around the same time as Class of '92, yeah? Was there any big players that you were playing with at the time that went on and really tore it up?
There was in my year group before I left United was with John Macken and Ronnie Warlock were in my year group at the time that went on to have good careers. Obviously, John's been at Radcliffe as a manager last season as well. So he went out to have a really good career. Ronnie went on to have a really good career as well, there was obviously Phil Neville was in the year above. Wes Brown was a few year below, and then obviously you had all the Class of '92 for about 4 years above us as well. So it was
okay. So obviously at such a young age, Jody, when you probably had got one goal of playing for United at the end of it, and you were released by the club, how did you handle it? Did you expect it at first, and how did you handle it after it as well?
Yeah, no, it was. I think when you leave, I didn't really play for probably about 18 months after it. I cut my foot open actually when I was. So funny story. My mum put me tea on the stairs. I come running down the stairs. It was a bowl of pasta, and I stood on the bowl of pasta and sliced the arch of my foot off. I had about 48 stitches in my foot. So that kind of finished me off from I think it was like 16 to 18 really from playing. So I was kind of drifting really out of the game, to be honest with you, after I left. And I ended up at Trafford Football Club, which is how I kind of got back into it and got the love of the game and stuff like that. But I always just loved playing. So wherever I was playing or whatever level I was playing at, and I've always been the same. I just wanted to play football, and that's what drove me really. And I think you're quite right. Obviously, that goal of being a footballer, and I always wanted to be a professional footballer. And I think it was the goal of being a professional footballer, not actually playing at a certain level. I never had a level in my head. You always want to play as high as you can. I just wanted to be a professional footballer, and I think that's what kind of drove me on through non-league and in the end progressing into a professional club.
So you probably had I'm going to say your most prolific spell at Radcliffe Borough. Was it 97 goals in 125 games? That's some going, to be fair. Would you say that spell's really where your career kick-started?
Well, I scored. To be fair, I scored a few goals before I went to. So I started out at Trafford, and I went to Lixton, and I scored I think 28 goals or something like that. And we finished like fourth bottom of the old Unibomb First Division as it was then. And and then ended up doing a couple of years at Hyde United. We finished second in the Unibond, which is the National North now, Unibond Premier. Did my first season. I did all right. I think scored 18 goals and then 15 goals a season after. And then I left Hyde to go to Radcliffe, and it just really kicked on from there. It was about 2001, 2002, where into 2003 really, where I just couldn't stop scoring. I think I found a manager really that believed in me and built a team around me and allowed me to express myself. There's only been a few managers in my career that have kind of embraced me in that way and allowed kind of me to be me, which is sometimes frustrating for players around me and managers. But I'd like to think I repaid them by scoring goals, and obviously we were successful as well with getting promoted.
I was going to say, because how do you explain it as a striker? Apart from, a manager putting faith in you, that everything you touch is a goal, and you go through those spells, but how do you explain that? Like those hot runs of form, like 97 goals in 125 games is mad. Yeah,
I think it's a cliche, and all strikers, it's once you're scoring and you're on that run, you don't think you're ever going to stop. And I had a spell of a few years like that, and I've always been, probably arrogance is a big word, but I think you need that arrogance when you, as a footballer, when you go on the pitch. I always thought I was the best player, so I took that kind of I took that mentality onto the football pitch with me. So scoring goals was second nature. I thought I visualised it in my head beforehand that I was going to score and how I was going to score, and I kind of just took that on and on and on and on. It's only when you stop scoring and then obviously the mentality switches a little bit and you think, I'm never going to score.
And then obviously you signed for Shrewsbury, £23,000 I think was the fee. Was that it for you? Was that yes, I've made it. Was that the move?
Yeah, it was. That was a culmination of a lot of hard work as I said, over those 2 or 3 years, and thinking that your chance isn't going to come. I'd scored the season before I actually went. I'd scored 46 goals.
Man, and Lionel Messi numbers, them, Jody.
Yeah, well, I don't think so. Yeah, not quite. But I thought, that season really, I would say I was probably one of the better players about. And it didn't quite happen then. And I think people were waiting for me because we got promoted. I think people were waiting to see if I could go and do it in the league above. And obviously I could score 24 by Christmas. And there was a couple of clubs knocking around really. But Shrewsbury were the first ones that came in with the money, and they'd been relegated from League Two the year before. They were full time in the conference, big football club. I mean, they were getting 4,000 or 5,000 in the conference, and I actually made my debut against Telford, who was their rivals, the Shropshire Derby. I think it was like 6,500. So it was a massive leap. It was, as I said, it was a culmination of a lot of hard work and actually thinking, you know what, I have arrived now. I've achieved kind of what I set out to do. I wanted to be a full-time footballer. And then obviously getting promoted into the Football League that season as well, kind of dusted it off nicely, really. I wouldn't say I was prepared for it. I think I never realised what a professional footballer entailed, and the hard work and not that I wasn't prepared for the hard work. I think it was more to do with the mentality shift from being a part-time footballer into being a professional footballer, where every single day you need to be at your best, and the competitive nature of it all was a lot to take in at first. And I think I went in there with a really strong mentality, and I think towards the end of the season that mentality had kind of wavered a little bit because I kind of struggled with the shift from part-time to full-time.
Do you think that's a big problem for a lot of non-league footballers that can't quite make that jump to full-time football?
I think so. I think there's a multitude of reasons, really. Like I said, it's I've always said this. There's a lot of talented lads around in non-league football, but it's actually having that mentality. I've played with footballers that and it's probably harsh to say, probably ability-wise, we're lacking considerably, but mentality-wise, they had it in abundance. They trained incredibly hard every single day. They listened, learned, and did a job for the team And that's what kind of fits into managers. And obviously, I take that away from my management career when further down the line, is that you need players like that. Not everybody can be the star player. You need people that fit into systems and shapes and stuff like that, and will do different jobs for the teams and stuff. So I think it's a multitude of things, really. It's that mentality. It's do they really want it? And also, are managers out there willing to give people opportunities?
Absolutely. So I know this is maybe a little bit hard to answer, but why do you think it never happened for you as much as you would have wanted it to in the Football League once you couldn't really sustain that level of football?
Yeah, I think I made poor choices, if I'm honest. I made poor choices when I signed for Shrewsbury, when they already had 4 forwards, and including a manager that still wanted to play himself. And they had Dwayne Darby, Luke Rogers, Colin Cram, Ryan Lowe, and Jimmy Quinn, the manager, who was still a player manager at the time. So I just I came in, played I made my debut, got man of the match, came on with half an hour to go, got man of the match. Started my next game, got man of the match. Started the third game against Dagenham and Redbridge, and we got smashed 5-0 away from home. And then I was cup-tied. We beat Morecambe 5-0, and I never got back in the team for 3 months because of the depth of the players that they had and the options he had. And by the time it came 3 months down the line, I'd obviously lost that sharpness, I'd lost that kind of confidence, that mentality that I came into the football club with. I was absolutely flying, training wise. It was seamless. I slipped into training. I was standing out. I said the games that started, but then I slipped out of the team. And that mentality shift, like I was saying before, I think it's really, really key. You've got to stay mentally strong, keep on the path that you need to be on, which is, I need to get back into the team. How am I going to get back into the team? And I don't think at times I was a bit of a sulker.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, I just wanted to play football. So whatever level that was at, I wanted to play. And if he wasn't going to let me play, then I'll go somewhere else and play. And that was my mentality. And that's the bad decisions that I made at times. I left football clubs too early, rather than sticking it out and saying, do you know what, I'm going to fight for my place. It was more that, well, if you don't want to play me, I'll go and find someone else that does. And I think I left Shrewsbury to go to Accrington on loan. Accrington wanted to sign me full time. But at the time, I was on the bench when I went there, and he wanted to keep me. He wanted to invest in me, but I was too impatient and went and went to Droylsden. Accrington won the league the next season and got promoted into the Football League. And some of the players that I played with at the time, I think I could have been part of it, but it wasn't meant to be. And I think the next chance I got was Torquay towards the end of my career. So I was 29 at the time. I moved down there, and it was a very, very difficult environment. I was put up in a hotel on my own. All the older lads all had partners and kids, and so I'd finish training, do 2 hours of training, do a little bit extra, then go back to my hotel room, sitting there until the next day. I had a girlfriend at home, I had my own house, back in the north. So that was difficult to make that transition. I think sometimes people don't look at that. They just look, you've got your professional football, you're getting paid to play football, and the fact is, I was miserable, to be fair. Yeah, it wasn't, and that was a poor decision. Another poor decision at the same time. I shouldn't really. At the time when I was at Droylsden in the conference, there was a host of teams wanting to sign me at the time, and again, Torquay, first one to come in, and I jumped at it. So I think poor decision making at times for me, and maybe a poor mentality at times also as well from not sticking at football clubs, not giving it long enough, not trying to work myself into managers' plans and sticking it out. So there are regrets there, but then when I look back on it, I can't have too many regrets. I had a decent football career, and I lasted 12, 14 years, whatever it was.
You did. You talk about your time at Torquay. We'll go back to Droylsden, but when you were at Torquay, you said you were miserable, in the hotel room on your own. Did you ever contemplate? Did you lose your love for football at that time? It could have been so easy to do.
It became a job, and it became something I had to do rather than something. It wasn't the love. I've always loved football, but I didn't feel part of the furniture. I was a lad from the north in with a load of lads from Devon, from really down south, lads from London, and it was hard to acclimatise into that also as well. So it's kind of fitting yourself into that new kind of banter and stuff like that as well. That was difficult.
Northerners do it best.
Yeah, well, you say that, but my jokes were falling on deaf ears. But
yeah, sounds about right.
No, I know. They do up here, so I don't even know what I'm going on about. No, it was difficult at times, and it did become a chore, and I just couldn't wait to get away from there in the end. And it shouldn't be like that, It was a great opportunity, so one that I was absolutely desperate to take. And then when I got down there again, and another kind of poor decision that I never asked the manager enough questions when I signed. He thought I was a left winger in a 4-4-2. I played left of a 4 my whole time there, and I only think I only started 3 games in like 20 odd games. Even to what we got to Wembley in the FA Trophy final, I never even went because I was that disillusioned with it all, and I just wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. I didn't even go to the game, so it was a poor time. Like I said, I should have asked the manager questions that I look back on now, and I just think I was naive. I just thought, we want Smith, so I'm going to go. And I don't think I asked him. I don't think during my career I asked enough questions of people of why they actually wanted to sign me. I think they'd seen me play and thought, Jesus, he can play. He can do a bit. He can score goals. He can create goals. But actually, when they get me, how do I fit him into my team? And I think that was one of the big questions I should have really been asking.
So you talk about, obviously, you felt really isolated during your time at Torquay. Do you think they had that, as much as you were isolating yourself and you wanted to go, do you feel like there was that support system there for you as well? Did they recognise that you felt like this?
No, and I didn't communicate it either. There's another thing really as well that they signed me, and as a 29-year-old lad who had his own mortgage, house, missus at home, and I was never supported once with anything outside of the football club. I was turned up, and I think you could see I was getting more and more disenfranchised as the time was going on. I also broke my ribs towards the end as well, so I was out for 4 to 5 weeks, from playing through that injury as well, and that just compounds it all a little bit more as well, because you can't even get on the training pitch either. So it was disappointing from my point of view that I didn't feel supported at all. Even from some of the more established players and stuff down there, I think you can maybe see that you've got a lad there that's is quite isolated. Just used to go out, go for walks and stuff like that as well. There was no. This is before proper. This is 2009. So there's no iPads or anything like that. Again, there's no Netflix and stuff like that. So you really just bound to your bedroom, watching 5 channels.
So obviously before that move to Torquay, you talk about professional football. You were at Droylsden, and you've been at Droylsden a few times, but there was that specific spell when they were flying. I mean, there's probably people who are watching this who don't even know who Droylsden are now. They've fallen far down.
To be fair. No, we were. We had a
great team.
Yeah, again, I think another regret really. I left Droylsden the first time too early again. I'd had a little falling out with Pacey, and then ended up going to Stalybridge. And the Stalybridge spell was the one time where it just never worked out for me at all. I couldn't buy a goal. I think I scored 2 goals in 28 games or something like that. Again, signed for a manager who probably wasn't the right fit for me. And then ended up going back to Droylsden with my tail between my legs in the summer. I think they bought me back. So I think Stalybridge paid 10 grand for me and then sold me back straight away in the summer for 10 grand back to Droylsden. But the time he'd signed Terry Fearns, Steve Daly, he had Robbie Talbot already there as well. He'd signed Steve Jagielka, with Carl Ruffer, Paul Phillips in net, Danny Warner, Gaz Morris. We had a really, really good side, at Conference North level. And with Jimmy Kelly also as well, centre midfielder. And Drozen had been knocking on the door for a couple of years. Even in my first spell when I went there, we finished second to Southport, then knocked out in the playoffs the following year. In the final, we got beat on penalties, and then we won the league the year after. So they were great times, great bunch of lads. We had a talk about mixing, different areas. We had Manx and Scousers. We had a really good mix though. We got on really, really well. And Pacey for all his flaws really, and obviously people slag him. He's got the fundamentals of how he wants the game played and how he wants to see it played and stuff. And it's not something we ever worked on, but it was something that was encouraged, a lot through obviously team talks, etc. and stuff like that. Obviously, and the plays he signed also as well that kind of fitted into that kind of ethos.
You talk about, the squad was bouncing off each other. Is that the best feeling for a footballer when you're in a good set of lads, you're in a club where you want to be? And is that the best feeling you can have as a footballer?
Yeah, and if you ask any footballer what they miss the most, it's the dressing room, it's the lads, it's the banter and stuff, and actually going. I mean, I speak to some people and they say they don't even miss the game. It's the actual, the old process of it, going to the game, getting on the coach, etc. and stuff like that. And I mean, there were some crazy times.
Any come to mind?
They were absolutely mental. Just the card games that I must have squandered 50% of my wages on card trips on the way home. I remember when I was at Accrington and Stanley, we were in the conference at the time and we were on like 150 quid a point, and I didn't realise this because I was on loan. And we were playing away from home down in London. We trained on the Friday, and then we were getting the coach down to London. And I just got this envelope in my hand, and obviously all our money was going into the to bank accounts at the time. It's about 600 quid in this envelope. Oh, that's your bonuses and stuff. I'm like, that's absolutely amazing. That I think I came back with about a tenner. Paul Cook and John Coleman and Jimmy Bell took it all off me.
Wow.
Yeah, but the coach journeys at Drozen were just as I've seen lads learn. We used to play a game called In-Betweenies. So you get 2 cards. So if you get a jack and a 2, then you can shoot the pot. So it's like a shoot pontoon game, and then you've got to bet on what the next card comes out as. So it's got to be in between a jack and a 2. And I've seen lads have aces low, kings high. I've seen them have aces and kings and draw a king and lose 200-300 quids and stuff like that. So yeah, they're absolutely they were crazy. They were crazy people. Loved the drink, loved the crack. It was they were great days, and I think that's what you need if you are going to be successful in anything you do. You need a good team spirit. You need a good togetherness. You need everyone pulling in the right direction, and that's certainly what we had there.
How would you describe your time at Burton Albion? Obviously, Burton now are probably a lot different to the club, the Burton that you were at. They were on the rise, whereas now they're an established football league club. How would you describe your time at Burton?
Again, another frustrating time really, because I started really well. Nigel Clough, obviously, signing for Nigel Clough as well was a massive thing. He was an absolute superb footballer, and obviously the Clough family name as well. He's a
royalty.
Draw. I actually in the summer got offered a move to Telford as well on a lot more money, but I turned that down to go to Burton because just the football club. I went down there to meet Nigel and just really, really impressed with him. And his, again, probably the only time I've really had a conversation with the manager where he actually, understood me and knew where I played and knew where my strengths were and where he wanted me to play. And I went in there, I was absolutely flying in pre-season. I had a really good pre-season. We played Forest, Derby, Chesterfield, scored against Chesterfield, played really well against Forest and Derby, and started the season up until about Christmas. And I had some personal issues in my life at home, and my probably affected me game on the football pitch, and I ended up losing my place. And then Nigel ended up going to Derby County. And we ended up limping over the line in the end, winning the conference. I think we broke the conference record for consecutive wins, and then I didn't think we won for 17 or something daft like that. Roy McFarlane took over and kind of was changing everything around. So good times. I still speak to people from there. Again, I think sometimes football's about relationships and taking relationships away. I still speak to John McGrath regularly, the Mickleover manager now who I played with at Burton. So I do look back on it fondly. A little bit of regret again. Things outside of football kind of affected my performances on the pitch, which can't be helped sometimes. But it's a regret that I let it come to that. But a great football club, really enjoyed it, and yeah, obviously getting promoted into the Football League again was nice.
Got a few promotions under your belt, Jody.
Yeah.
Which one would you say was your best promotion, if you can narrow it down to just one?
I think probably the Radcliffe one, more because I was kind of a prominent figure in that promotion that season. Obviously, I'd scored again, like I said, I'd scored 46 goals that season to get us promoted. It was a time. It was just I was a young lad in his early 20s. Things were going well in football and stuff, and I was enjoying my life. And obviously we were getting promoted, and I was at a football club where I got on well with every single person at the football club, and down to the chairman, who I still speak to now, Bernard Manning, who I got on really well with. I had a manager at the time that really believed in me, and a set of lads that kind of wanted to work around me as well. So, that was a really, really enjoyable time and one that I look back on fondly as well. The Droylsden one, I'd actually broke my leg about 15 games before the end of the season, so I was actually injured towards the end of the season, which was really frustrating. So I had to let the lads kind of take it home from there. So again, that was a one with tinge with sadness. The Burton one, I'd played towards the end of the season again, so that was disappointing. And then the Shrewsbury one, obviously, okay, I'd signed at Christmas. We went out through the playoffs again, and I wasn't one of the main players either again. So I think when you're a main protagonist of a team that gets promoted, and you're one of the main reasons that the team's doing well, then it always means a little bit more.
You say, do you know when you say like you're one of the main players in the team? I know you spoke a little bit about that. You need that arrogance as a striker. Do you really feel that like you're the main man in the team? Does it really like put you on another level when you feel like that?
I think, yeah, it must do. It must do for anybody. If anyone in any walk of life, no matter what industry you work in, if someone instills that confidence in you and you actually feel that when you go into work every single day that you're the best at what you do, or you're one of the best, and even if you're not, and I wasn't, to be fair, but if you feel that way, then you're clearly gonna give your best in it, and that's the way that I always thought when I went on the football pitch that I had that arrogance, even if I wasn't, and even if I didn't play well, I still thought I was the best player. And I think everybody needs that that arrogance about them as well. And even if they're not the best technically, even if they think, right, do you know what, I'm going to be better than you today, and how I'm going to be better than you is I'm going to outwork you. Mm-hmm. Every time you get the ball, I'm going to be on you. I'm going to take the ball off you, and then I'm going to give it simple. You don't have to be the best player on the pitch to be the best player on the pitch, if you know what I mean. So I think every single player has to have that mentality when you step over the white line, really.
So a little spell in America as well.
Yeah, that I never actually went to America.
Are you joking?
No. It does say that, but I never. So I signed for when I left Burton. I went and signed for a club called Maryland Monarchs. I think it was Royal Maryland Monarchs. I think it was.
It was Maryland, yeah. So
I signed the contract.
How did you sign for them? What happened for you to sign?
It was a guy that knew me. It was an English guy that was the manager, and he just rung me up. I was at the end of my contract at Burton. Obviously, they were going into the Football League, and I wasn't going with them. And he asked me if I wanted to. He asked me if I wanted to go over there, and I thought, you know what? Like I said, I was having some issues in my personal life at home. I thought it'd be good to get away. So I signed the contracts, got all my flights sorted and everything, and then I got a phone call to say that they'd hit their foreign quota, and I had to wait. So we were waiting. It was I think it was getting on for like 6 weeks in the end. And then they were saying that I had to go over on a visa waiver. It was just all getting very, very complicated towards the end. It was a league below the MLS, so the USL one, I think it was, or something like that at the time. So it was an exciting. I really wanted to go. It was exciting. Obviously, I'd gone kind of a long way around the lines with going over there, packed everything up, and renting my house, everything out. So It was, it was. But again, it just got very, very messy. So I never actually ended up going over there. So yeah, again, another disappointing.
I do apologise for bringing that one up.
yeah. No, it was. I said it was probably for the best. I might have stayed and never met you.
That's it as well. So technically, you would have been one below David Beckham, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he'd have been. Yeah. On a par though. On a par.
It would have been mates with David Beckham. So during your playing days, and before we just move on to management, who would you say is the best player you've ever played with? Because you've played with quite a few really, really good players.
Yeah, probably Ian Bishop when I was at Radcliffe. So just before I got sold to Shrewsbury, he was playing centre midfield, and I obviously went on that run. I broke the goal scoring record when I'd scored in 14 consecutive games, and he was kind of instrumental of that. He was a lot of the goals and the runs I was making, and he was just finding me. He was obviously towards the end of his career. He was late 30s at the time, but just the way he dictated the game, that way he found space, his touch, his passing, and was a really, really nice bloke as well, really down to earth. I played with some other really good. I played with some good footballers. It's hard to pick people that stick out. Obviously, I played with Joe Hart. At Shrewsbury as well. He was a young kid at the time. Dave Edwards, who went on to play for Wolves, who's back at Shrewsbury now. Centre midfielder, played for Wales. He was a very good young footballer at the time.
Played with Jennings as well.
Pardon?
Jennings as well.
Connor Jennings. Yeah, Connor Jennings. Again, Connor was one of them that probably had that right mentality and that attitude towards working. I remember him being a young kid, and he was his young lad, his physique for a young lad was really good. His attitude was spot on. He wanted to listen. He wanted to learn. Even at a young age, then like even 10 years ago, he was drinking protein shakes before and after training and stuff like that. He wasn't your typical non-league, bottle of bud after the game. It was, his mentality was that he wanted to progress and he wanted to do better. And he's one of them that has kind of earned it through hard work, really, and gone on and scored a lot of goals. I didn't think he'd score as many goals as he did. I didn't think he was a goal scorer, which I think I think looking at him now, his role has kind of changed a little bit with what now he's at Tranmere. He does play a little bit deeper, but there was a spell when he was at Macclesfield and Stockport and stuff where he was banging goals in left, right, and centre on loan from Scunthorpe. So another really nice lad as well. So really pleasing when nice lads do well. Terry Ferns was an unbelievable goal scorer. Could spend 90 minutes, 89 minutes not touching the ball and score the winner. And that was fine for Terry. He really wasn't bothered. All he wanted to do was score goals. And whereas I was the opposite, I wanted to be involved in the game. I'd be happy not towards the end of my career. I'd be happy not to score as long as I've been creative. I'd be on the ball lots, and that had done for me. I couldn't abide being not touching it for 89 minutes. But unbelievable goal scorer. Talk about non-league legends. He's one of them, certainly. Amount of goals he scored.
Absolutely.
There's some. Jimmy Kelly was a very good footballer who we had. Carl Ruffer, centre back at Droylsden. There's loads, really. Loads of lads at Shrewsbury as well. Martin O'Connor, captain Birmingham in the League Cup final. Colin Cram, who I thought was a really good footballer at Shrewsbury, Scottish lad. There's loads.
Do you still get recognised at any time from your football career? Occasionally,
yeah. I've done in a club in Manchester by Torquay fan.
Really?
Yeah, really, really weirdly. But yeah, no, I do on occasion. But obviously, with my age now, people are it's usually by old people.
Absolutely. So,
I did get recognised at a Cortinas gig by a young lad once, which all my mates were very amused by.
what more do you want?
Yeah,
What more do you want? So you moved into management, and we'll talk about your achievement because not many people know just how big it was of an achievement. But did you always know you wanted to go into management? Because I know circumstances at Ashton United at the time, maybe you fell into it, but did you always want to be a manager?
I'd be lying if I said yeah. No, it was never really my intention. I left football when I was about 33. I moved down to London with my girlfriend at the time. Lived down there for 4 years and then ended up moving to Thailand after that. So I completely drifted out of football. I was working in recruitment, kind of enjoying, not having that structure of having to train and prepare for games, etc., and stuff like that. So it wasn't something I was looking to get back into. As I said, I barely even kicked a ball for a number of years after I stopped playing. It was only when I went to Thailand, I started playing with some expats over there, and I kind of got the bug for playing football again. And when I ended up coming back to the UK and ended up coming back to Manchester, I rang Philo up, who was the manager at Ashton at the time, and just said, would you mind if I just came and trained? I've not played fully for 4 years. I'm 37. I just want to train with a decent level to keep myself ticking over. And he said, stop that. He said, we'll sign you on. So I never even trained with the lads. Went down on the Saturday. We played Skemmelsdale at home, and I brought me on with about 10 minutes to go, and Dale Johnson skinned about 4 players down the line, squared it, and I scored with my first touch. And that was definitely as good as it got in an Ashton shirt.
Well, you said it.
From a player's perspective. But yeah, it come back in, and I kind of went to Radcliffe to kind of finish off, and then went back to Ashton, and then the opportunity arose to take the manager's job, and it was actually offered to Will Hayning, and Will rang me up. He said, "Listen, I want to do it." He said, "But I'll only do it if you do it with me." So I was kind of umming and ahhing at the time. I was just setting up a business, obviously with the coaching company and stuff, and I had a lot going on outside of kind of football, and did I really have the time to do it? But I made a decision. Yeah, I'll go for it, and I absolutely loved it. It was something that kind of I felt came natural at the time. I've never been a real. I've been a leader in different ways in a dressing room, but never been like a leader. I've never been a captain of a team or anything like that. I'd be a leader if it come down to
playing cards.
Yeah, no, I'd come down to if it meant somebody going to the manager and speaking to the manager, for example, in the dressing room, or someone voicing an opinion for somebody else, backing him up, etc., and stuff like that. I felt, I always felt comfortable in that environment. But no, I was never. I don't think anyone that played with me would have said, you'll be a manager, certainly. And I never really saw it in myself, to be honest with you. But I enjoyed it. I love football. I like to think that I know a bit about it. I played football for long enough. Don't know absolutely everything. And I think that when I got into management, I realised how much there was to learn, and how much as a player you're so insular, and you think about yourself, and you think about your unit, and you don't really look at kind of anything else from that perspective. You're just so consumed with how you play, and then when you're a manager, it's completely flipped. You've got you're responsible for absolutely everything and everybody within that as well. So I enjoyed it, and I think it was something that I had to learn on the job. I worked alongside somebody that was that had a really good career as well, Will Hayning, who had good contacts within the game as well, someone that I got on with very well and was very knowledgeable about the game. And we kind of had the same ideas, and now we wanted to set the team up as well. So that dovetailed really well. And, we had a bit of we had a good start, and then we lost a lot of the players to Stalybridge. And then we had to rebuild.
Loads of players to Stalybridge.
Yeah. So we lost, I think, 6 players, wasn't it, to Stalybridge? The best, the best players out of the team. which decimated it. And I think this team was a little bit short anyway, so it left us really, really short. And we kind of linked on with the same lads that we had there. I think Will was still playing at the time, and Will will probably admit that I think he needed to come out of the team. I was dipping in and out, and I needed to come out of it as well. We had a lot of players who were really good technically, but couldn't run. So that we were left with a team that was quite leggy, and we were getting run over a little bit. I think the last straw, we went to Mickle and we got beat 4-1 or 4-0, I think it was. And we made wholesale. We shipped about 3 or 4 out and brought a load of young lads in. We ended up getting Jack Dyche from Scunthorpe, who did very well. Lee Knight from Oldham, a few other kind of young lads who just ran around really.
Domenico.
Yeah. Dominique Minate.
Spaggers.
Yeah, we brought a little Italian in who inboxed me. What a character he was. So yeah, we brought Dom in as well, who did really well for us towards the end of the season. I think our home record was brilliant. I think we won 11 out of our last 12 home games. We drew 1. That was against Blythe on the last game of the season. We were picking up points away from home. I think we finished about 8 points outside the playoffs in the end, which was really good considering from where we came from and gave us a base to work from. We brought in Dom Smalley as well, who was a brilliant signing for us at right back. And then in the summer, Will decided to go. So it was a decision, do I go myself or do I look to do it, take it on solely? And I made a decision to stay on my own. I brought Woody in as my assistant, kind of player assistant, who was already at the football club. And then we had Damo as well, the first team coach, and then we brought Kieran in as the goalkeeper coach, and so we built a management team, and then we built a team really from scratch.
I don't think I can stress this enough. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ashton United at the time, shoestring budget.
It was tiny. When we took over, it was 1,700 quid, and one player was on 250. So we were paying people like 50 quid, etc. and stuff like that. Up against, it was tough, and then we got it up to 2,000 for the following season. Again, not massive considering you've got other teams on 5-6 grand, etc. and stuff like that, which obviously doesn't guarantee you success.
Well, obviously, just to explain that right. So Ashton United got promoted to the National League. Now, if I explain that team in that season, because it was special.
Oh yeah, it was probably one of the most. When you're talking about promotions, etc., ones you enjoy the most, and I mean, it was for me again. You're integral to that. As the manager, etc. Every single player at that football club was there because obviously we signed them, and we set them up tactically and the training, etc., the information that we're giving them. So it's a massive achievement from my perspective as in my football career. But also, I think a lot of the players in there as well that would say the same thing, that it was one of the most enjoyable football seasons I've had in football, certainly. And I think one of the testaments to that is a lot of them players, that didn't know each other before that season are still friends now, and still talk to each other. I still have Josh Granite calling me. I still speak to him quite regularly. And I had some nice texts, obviously, when I left Ashton from players that had already left, etc. and stuff like that. So it was a magnificent achievement considering that we didn't even have a team in the summer. We were still signing players in September to kind of build it in. We were chasing Josh Granite all summer. We ended up getting him from Trafford. He was going here, there, and everywhere.
What a signing he was!
We were his last resort. We paid £1,000 for Josh.
That was unheard of for Ashton United.
Yeah, well, it was. I begged Terry to sign him, and we put him on contract as well. So he was our only contract player, and he come in, and he was just immense. We had Mark Lees, who was still at the football club, who was absolutely brilliant. Loved managing Leesy. We chased Aaron Chalmers all summer, and we ended up getting him in as well. And him and Josh were absolutely outstanding at centre back. We got towards Christmas time, we brought Dan Mooney in and Lewis Baines.
Lewis Baines.
Two loan signings. Yeah, Bainesy was absolutely superb.
Liam Thompson as well.
Yeah, Liam Thompson we got in the summer. His first training session, I thought he was a defensive midfielder. And then we were doing some shape work, and I put him in as a defensive midfielder, and he just kept running off. I'm like, Liam, no, you've got to stand in there. And quickly realised he was an attacking midfielder, and he was, I think, got 18 goals for us that season. But
he's so good.
They were all massive goals. I mean, the one at Workington on the last game to get us the win to finish second in the virtually the last kick of the game was just
nothing will top that.
The amount of late goals we got that year was again testament to the players and their mentality. And I think we instilled it early in the season, saying, listen, we're not going to get any pressure from the board or the fans or anyone to achieve anything, to get promoted. They were happy for the club to be ticking over in that league. Everything's got to come from within this dressing room. It's got to come from us. It's got to come from you. That desire and setting targets, and the target was to finish in the playoffs, and that was the be all and end all. We had to finish in the playoffs, and I think we instilled that early doors, and I think the players took it on quite early as well, and that become the mantra. And as the season did progress, like I said, we picked up some really good players. Dean Smalley ended up coming in and doing a really good job for us. John Pritchard, we brought in on absolute buttons. You know what a good footballer John Pritchard is. Went to Chester in the summer. Yeah. And that summer, and we had Nicky Platt who came in, did a really good job. I ended up getting Sam Sheridan in from. I saw Sam played against us for Altrincham that season in a cup game. Just come on as a sub about 20 minutes to go, and he was just dropping in, spraying things about, and God, you would fit perfect. You're just what we're missing. And he again, I think that was the catalyst really. Signing Shez kind of took us onto that other level really, because he was able to dictate games for us, and actually we were able to play through the thirds a lot better with him in the side. And again, I keep saying it, we scored a lot of late goals, and I think that's down to that mentality from the dressing room. And they were all brilliant lads. They were Matty Chadwick. We had a bit of an injury hit season that season. Jack scored a lot of goals for us as well. Don't get me wrong, trying to balance the books every single week and stuff. His hard work, but we got our just rewards in the end. To finish second was just, I even for me to imagine, I never imagined us finishing second. So even just to finish second was enough for me. And then we went on and beat Farsley and then Grantham in the final. We won our last 7 games, which we'd never done all season. We never put that run of games together all season, and we just, when it really mattered, we just clicked into gear, and we're just like a machine, really.
I can't emphasise it enough how good that day was. For anyone who doesn't know, I was head of media at Ashton. This is how I know Jody, and the sun was shining. What a day that was!
It was.
It was boiling. It was great. And then Jody, National League North as a manager. And is it fair to say that you actually had a worse squad in the National League North than you felt you maybe did in the Evo Stick?
Yeah, I think if we could have kept that side together, we'd have stayed up comfortably. But we couldn't. We lost 6 players. We lost 6 of that player final team before a ball had been kicked. So we lost Dom Smalley, Josh Granite, John Pritchard. Dan Mooney, Liam Baines all went back to Fleetwood. Dean Smalley went to Chester. So we got 3 players to Chester, 1 to Barrow, 2 went back to Fleetwood. And that kind of decimated us. The club, bless them, weren't prepared to be in the National North. I don't think they understood, as I didn't really, the seismic gap between the 2 leagues and how much it would take to bridge that. So, and financially, we didn't know what our budget was until we even started pre-season. So we missed out on a lot of, I was having conversations with players and I didn't know what I could offer them. We didn't get a massive increase on our budget from the Evo Stick. I think we were on $3,000 a week, which is absolutely piddly. I mean that's now a small, might not be next year after coronavirus, but that was a small budget in the Evo Stick League at the time. So it was a frustrating one. Like I said, we shed a lot of players. We got good footballers in, and we started off. We worked the loan system quite well. but we had to rely too heavily on the loans, and you can't rely on loan players because the clubs will pull them back at any time. The player might get a sniff that he might get a chance in the first team, so wants to go back. They're also a gamble as well, whether they actually can be bothered when they get there. You know, are they going under duress? You know, have they fallen out with the club? Have they fallen out with football, etc.? So loans are a gamble, and but because of the budget restraints, we were having to kind of work that and get free loans in, get big subsidies on loan players to come into the football club. And at one point we did have a good side. We got Brad Jackson on a free.
Great player.
Yeah, come in and done really well for us. Craig Hobson at the time was absolutely flying. I think we played Hereford away, and we smashed them 2-0.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, absolutely, and we footballed them to death. And I think that took us up to like 10th or something at the time. And then we lost 2 loan players that went back after that game. Brad Jackson left within a week. Craig Hobson had gone to Alfreton. I'd let a striker go because I thought Hobbo was obviously the main man and he was struggling to get in. So I let a striker go, which left us really, really light once he went to Alfreton. And they were offering him stupid money, like 2.5 times what we could pay him. The same with Brad. Obviously, Brad Jackson went to Chester, so can't blame him. He's going to a big football club. It was a big jump for him, and a team that was pushing towards the top end of the table. So you can understand why he went. Hobble will tell you he went for the money, which is fine. Which is fine as well. Understood at the time. He's got to look after himself, and we couldn't offer him anywhere near what Alfreton were offering him. So it was a really, really frustrating season. At times I thought we were getting to grips with it, and we had the players that were capable of pushing on, and then we just kept losing them, and then we couldn't keep people fit, and we're going to York and places like that, and I've got 50. I can't fill a bench, and I look round and I've got 2 young lads on 50 quid a week, and you're at York City in front of 3,500, who have got probably 4 players sat in the stand on 500-600 quid a week. So it was tough, and I think we were battling towards the end of the season to stay up. We give it a really good go. We were pushing Guiseley right to the end. I think, and Guiseley had a 600-700 grand a year budget that season, and ours was about 140. So I think we only finished a few points behind them in the end. We just couldn't score goals. It was a big problem, and I think the longer games go on and you can't score, there's always that worry that you're liable to concede, and then as soon as we did concede that inevitable goal, people's heads went down because they're thinking, well, we're not going to get back into this now. And I think that was the kind of mentality, and it was a real shift from the season before for me as a manager, and how you motivate a team that's losing every week to a team that's winning every week. And it's really difficult. You can't. First of all, when you lose your first few games, you want to go in, you want to hammer people, and you want to get you want to get a reaction out of them. But as the games are going on and you keep losing, you can't just keep going in with the same mantra. You can't go in hammering the same players with the same things. And also, it might not have been the players' fault. We just weren't good enough, and we didn't have good enough players to compete at that level. And sometimes you can have the best tactics in the world. You can have you can prepare the best you can possibly prepare, and you're just not good enough on the day. And I think that happened on a few occasions for us. A bit of naivety from my perspective as well, from an honest perspective, that I went in there thinking I could play this expansive game with the players that I had, and we did play some nice football at times, but we were a little bit open to the counter attack sometimes and we didn't have the players in that final third to kind of open the better defences up. We played. Who did we play at home? We got beat 5-0. They played a 4-4-2. What who they called? I can't remember what they're called now. One of the season teams.
Spennymoor?
No, it wasn't Spennymoor. It was playing red and white. Brackley.
Brackley, yeah. Right.
So we played Brackley at home. They played 4-4-2. They played a centre midfielder, left mid. Just very functional, very compact. They defended the middle of the pitch. They dropped the 2 forwards into a kind of low to medium block, and we must have had 80% of the ball, and we got beat 5-0. So again, I'm coming away from the game thinking, I naively as a manager, a young manager or a new manager coming into the game, thinking that it's all about how you set your teams up, how you want to play, etc. But there you've got a manager that's setting up in a 4-4-2, and he's dominating me without the ball because they were just killing us. Every time they'd break away, they looked like they were going to score a goal because we were getting desperate and then overcommitting. So I think a naivety from my perspective as well, where we early I think we could have picked more points up at certain points in the season if we'd just been a little bit more reserved in how we set our teams up rather than kind of going for it as much as we did. But that was kind of my mentality as a manager, that I wanted to set my teams up to play in, and I kind of believed in that at the time. I think as you take yourself away from the game and you analyse it, and obviously you analyse everything, every decision you make and stuff, and whether things were the right decisions at the time or not. Maybe not.
So then it was all change at Ashton, Jody. New owners, and it's fair to say there was a lot more money about Hurst Cross, Ashton United, and you were the manager in the Evo stick. Well, sorry, Bet Victor now.
Yeah, someone on it.
Well, yeah. So what was it? What was it? Where do you think it went wrong in terms of having this budget and the freedom to put the team together with where money wasn't not necessarily money was an object, but you had better financial power than you've ever had, and it just didn't work out. And how did you feel? How did you sum that one up?
I've had plenty of time to think about it and kind of analyse it, etc. and stuff like that. I think the bottom line is, and when I looked at it, the goalkeeper we signed wasn't good enough, and we didn't have the goals in the team. I think we played some really, really good football early in the season, and we were kind of battering teams and not being able to score, and then we conceded an inordinate amount of penalties. Just to kind of hold our line, dropping too deep, etc. and stuff like that. So little silly errors. Signing wise, obviously the budget was a lot bigger. There's a big things going on, around the football club, etc. and stuff like that. With we had new changing rooms put in. There was big plans, to put 4Gs in, etc. and stuff like that. And obviously David and Jonathan had massive ideas for the football club, which was great. It was music to my ears. It's what I wanted to hear all the time. That I was at the football club. It was, me more than anything. At the time, I was kind of disillusioned with it all. It was hard work every single week, scrapping around for players. You get one in, he does well, he leaves, and then you've got to find another one. So to actually have someone saying to you, right, we can put, we can sign players, we can put them on contracts, we can get some, high profile players in, which I was encouraged to do, and we were encouraged to get kind of high profile players in that we could build the profile of the football club up. Then obviously there was. I was encouraged to talk us up to make sure that we were going to be title contenders, and the type of players that we're signing. Everyone. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And I think everyone in the summer, every single player that we signed, were like, "Wow, that's an amazing signing. That's a really good signing." But sometimes, names don't make teams, and reputations don't make teams, and probably the mix that we had didn't just quite work. I think we got unlucky with injuries, suspensions at wrong times, and again, I think the keeper that we brought in wasn't good enough. We brought Dave Carnell back in, and we really picked up. And then Dave Carnell went and broke his ribs, so we had to bring another keeper in. He didn't work out, so then we had to bring the other keeper back in. It was all circumstantial. I think at the end of the day, there was some poor luck along the way, and when I look back at it, I'm disappointed that I wasn't given more time. There was only 14 league games gone. I could see that we were trying to get players in to fill those positions that we've spoken about. There was still 86 points to play for, and also the work I'd done at that football club for the 3 previous seasons, I thought would have bought me a little bit more time than I was actually given. So I felt disrespected a little bit, and kind of the work that I had done previously was kind of gone unnoticed really. But I'm a big boy. I understand football. I understand it's a results business, and if someone feels that the club's not going in the right direction, then it's up to them to make that decision. Again, the game we played, the last game that we had was Nantwich, and we were down to 10 men after 20 minutes. A lad I brought in on his debut got sent off for a 2-point tackle. So that probably just summed everything up, to be honest with you. But I think everything happens for a reason, and I've actually enjoyed taking a step away from kind of management. I think, as I discussed, I wasn't looking to be a manager, so it wasn't something I was preparing for. I wasn't doing all my badges. I wasn't doing a lot of preparation behind it. I wasn't working with another manager as a coach or an assistant. It wasn't something that I worked my way up to. It was something that I was thrown into, and right now you're a manager, had kind of nothing really to kind of fall back on. So it was learning as I went, and as I've been brutally honest, I think there's a lot of things that I could have done differently, even in the previous seasons, even in the season we got promoted. There was things that, if you look back on, you could have done a little bit different, a little bit better, and obviously you're trying to analyse that and improve yourself at all times. And certainly in that season we got promoted, I think I underestimated the National League North, and then when we came back down, I probably underestimated the Evo stick a little bit but I genuinely thought that the players that we're bringing in were top class, non-league footballers that had been there, done it. It just didn't work out. I think sometimes, it didn't work out in that short space of time, is what I will say. Again, there was 14 league games gone. There was plenty of points to play for. There was plenty of time to turn it around. There was plenty of times to move players on, bring players in, like I'd always done. At Ashton, my squads had evolved, throughout the seasons, as the season went on. Certainly, as you'll be testament to, the year we got promoted, that squad evolved as the season went on, and I think that would have been the case this season as well. I think when I left, we were 7 points off the playoffs with 2 games in hand. I think if we'd won the Nantwich game, which obviously we didn't, we'd have been just outside the playoffs. But the league was that bottleneck. That obviously the position was a lot lower than it was, and then the club went and lost 6 games on the trot after I left, which obviously put them into that relegation fight that they were then in. But is that a change of manager, and then a new manager comes in, new ideas and stuff. It takes time for it to all switch over and stuff like that. So I've no kind of bitterness about it. It's something that happened. Disappointment. I was disappointed that kind of potentially the way I was treated a little bit, but that's football. You've got to dust yourself down, move on, and I've certainly took the time now to work on myself as a coach. I'm on my B license, my UEFA B license now. Whenever the world starts moving again.
Well, yeah, it's a big question.
Yeah, I've done the first block of that now as well. Doing a lot of kind of planning, researching, etc., looking at different systems and etc. and stuff like that, different training methods, and it's something that I didn't want to do previously, but it's something that I'm really passionate about now, and I really want to get back into as quickly as possible.
So I was going to say, that sounds like from you. So I was going to say you've got a lovely family now. You've got your business all set up, but you want to get back into management. Yeah,
I think at the time I was listening to a podcast from Steve McLaren just before it all happened, and they were talking about being sacked as a manager, and his biggest overriding emotion was relief. So when it actually happened, it was a relief. Like, thank God I don't have to do that again. Thank God I don't have to solve that problem. And I think that was quite a big emotion for me at the time. It was a bit of relief because there was a lot of pressure. Like you just said, I've got a young family at home, 2 kids under 3. I've got 2 businesses that demand a lot of my attention, and I was having to, there was a lot of pressure from all different areas of my life, and then obviously football as well. There was a ton of pressure from that. So when that pressure was actually taken away, it was a bit of a relief, really. That I didn't have to solve the problem. I didn't have to come up with solutions for it. And that was that problem from my life was actually taken away. But I think then when you actually come out of that phase, it's analysis, and you look at what you could have done better, where did it go wrong, what will you do differently next time. And certainly I think I kind of went into that phase quite quickly and spoke to a lot of people. I spoke to a lot of managers. A lot of managers rang me. Spent a lot of time discussing, certain issues and stuff like that. And it's something that's given me it's given me a determination to come back and prove a few people wrong, maybe.
Absolutely. I think that is the best place to end it. So, Jody, it's been an absolute pleasure for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. Like you said, you weren't doing anything anyway. None of us are. No, but absolutely superb. So thank you very much. I hope all you guys have enjoyed watching this special Lives in the Game. I told you Jody could talk. An hour and 7. This is what I used to do every after every Ashton United game.
Have a chat.
Do. So thank you for everyone for watching today. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out our website as well, 247football.com. All of Jody's coaching stuff, pro sport coaching, will be in the link in the description if you do, by any chance, live in the Warrington area and you want to send your kids off to some football coaching. So all that'll be in the description below. But Jody, again, thank you very much for coming on today.
Yeah, George, no problem.
And thank you everyone for coming in. We'll see you next time.